want my phone number. Yeah. Yeah. I can write it down for you. Hi, Molly.
I have no idea, honestly. Probably.
Recording in progress.
Please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the February 19th, 2025 City Council meeting. We start every City Council meeting with our open comment period. This is an opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on items that we will not be taking public testimony on during a public hearing later in the agenda. Each person has 2 minutes to speak for a total of 20 minutes. I will be keeping track of time through a variety of methods through this stoplight here and the clock up there with the blue letters. Because of limited time, we want to make sure that others have an opportunity to speak. So I encourage you to be concise and also if you're speaking on the same topic, if you want to take other approaches to that topic rather than repeating what other public testifiers have said, that will get us through quicker. If you have materials to share with the council, you may give them to the city clerk over here to distribute. Please state your name clearly and make sure the clerk has your information if you need follow-up. And with that, I am going to start with Paula Hart.
Thank you, Mayor Norton, for putting ADA compliance on the top of your strategic priorities list. There are multiple instances of non-compliance to be found in the city. Perhaps before money is spent on any one problem, the city should identify and prioritize deficiencies. This would include assessing the highest risk and discovering which are the most offensive problems the city may not yet be aware exist. A certified ADA permanent employee would be able to help with that, as well as prevent even more mistakes being made in the future. Historically, I would like to know how much money has been spent making it accessible. I'm guessing not much. Please, council members, assign someone on the staff to make that determination. Remember too that anything accessible is usable by the abled. The problem is it doesn't work the other way. Disabled people cannot easily walk or roll where there is a rough surface. Unfortunately, the ADA does not explicitly forbid the use of bricks or rough surfaces, just highly discourages them. The ADA is not intended to be comprehensive. After all, it forgot to include street parking for 35 years, but specified how many inches wide parking stalls and ramps must be, as well as access aisles. Several years ago, when I went downtown to check on the results of the construction for heart of the city, I was appalled to see bricks had replaced smooth concrete on First Avenue in front of the restaurant. I had my measuring tape with me and my rollator and jarred myself along this rough surface, stooping to measure how far apart bricks were in many places. I had photos showing that 1 1/2 inch was not uncommon, and the maximum is supposed to be 1/2 inch.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Moving on, we have Ivan Itza.
My name is Ivan Heitzel. 3 years ago, I organized an event titled Limits to Growth and the Great Simplification, featuring Nate Higgins. Nate shared that humanity will experience a great simplification in the coming decades, beginning with the onset of financial and economic turbulence, followed by a significant economic contraction. I'm convinced that the great simplification has already begun and will play out in the coming decade. Author Dugald Hines states, "The collapse is already here, it's just not evenly distributed." But how can we begin to have a conversation about this? I'm distributing lapel pins with a black elephant and the words "look down" on it. The black elephant is a combination of a black swan, which is an unforeseeable event that has a large impact, and the elephant in the room. The black elephant, then, is an event such as the great simplification that when it happens, everyone will pretend was unforeseeable, but all along it was the elephant in the room. The call to look down is from a passage in the Dark Mountain Manifesto that states, "And so we find ourselves, all of us together, poised trembling on the edge of a change so massive that we have no way of gauging it. None of us knows where to look, but all of us know not to look down." Our question is, what would happen if we looked down? Could it even be good for us? We believe it's time to look down. So it's time to face the realities of the unraveling of systems and structures that many of us grew up taking for granted. I encourage you to acknowledge and consider that the future that's coming may not simply be an extension of the past. So if a herd of black elephants are charging and you ignore them until they're upon you, it's too late to do anything about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heitzel. Next up is Wyatt Ryan.
According to those surveyed for Vision 2050, affordable housing represented the highest priority for Rochester going forward. And while the Rochester Area Housing Coalition is doing great work for our community, we are experiencing a glaring issue that has not been addressed. That issue is private equity firms coming in and buying properties, taking away opportunities for everyone in our community to purchase housing, whether that be apartments, condos, townhouses, or single-family homes. Black Swan is one of those companies. Currently, they manage 280 properties in Rochester. Everything on this list highlighted in red is something that they own. Of those 201 properties that they own, 159 of them are under companies other than the name of Black Swan. Of those 201, 79 of them are single-family homes. If we are to address the housing and the lack of affordable housing in this city, private equity firms are going to be one of the greatest barriers limiting that access to affordable housing in Rochester and the surrounding area. And this deserves more consideration going forward when talking about housing for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Next up is Jay Smith.
Good talk.
Good evening, Mayor Norton and esteemed members of the City Council. My name is Jay Smith. I've lived in Rochester since 2014, currently in Ward 6. As you may have noticed, I'm wearing my Minnesota DMV-approved high-visibility work coat specifically to make a couple points. First, I want you to think about safety, and by that I mean safety for all of us, not specifically just myself, but for all the folks like me who have mobility challenges. Second, while I want you to remember me and the request I'm going to make, I really want you to think of the many mobility challenged members of our community who couldn't be here tonight. 2 weeks ago, during members' comments, it was noted that the disability community was not brought into discussions regarding design plans for the sports complex. I'd like to stop that now, before we set a trend. I'm here to ask you to fix Peace Plaza so it will be accessible and safe for everyone in Rochester, including and especially those of us with mobility issues. Peace Plaza reflects our city's identity. It should be a source of pride, not an area in disrepair. The longer we delay fixing this issue, the more costly and difficult the repairs will become. Addressing it now is a responsible investment in Rochester's future. We don't need more studies to highlight the effects of frost heave in northern climates. This is well documented and expensive to mitigate. We need to cut our losses and move on, with an emphasis on making it safe for all of us. Thank you for your time and consideration to this important issue.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Bethany Porter.
Thank you, Council President,
Mayor
Council
Norton,
members, and Mayor
mocking
Norton.
a
My name is Bethany
handicapped man.
Porter, and I live in Northwest Rochester and have for almost 17 years now. I've heard Peace Plaza described in several different ways by elected officials or city staff. Responses range from, the sidewalk is for everyone, but the other areas are not, to a safe, flexible public space for people to gather. If you can come to a unified agreement on what Peace Plaza is intended to be, that would inform your decisions as well as the public's expectations. My understanding has always been in line with the description of a safe, flexible public space for people to gather, but if it is merely a sidewalk, then plan for a sidewalk. If it is indeed meant to be a public gathering space, then we need short and long-term plans to make it safe for everyone to use. Whether they are residents or here to visit Mayo, people with disabilities deserve to be able to use the tables and chairs, and the plan to leave them all on raised letter art excludes us. Please use the full $175,000 to make the largest smooth area possible at this time, and start making plans for what more needs to be done. Rochester is a good place to live, and that's exactly why I expect better of Peace Plaza. I want to see Peace Plaza evolve into a space that is welcoming to everyone in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. John Howley.
Good evening, council members, mayor. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll not ask you the two questions because I see by your appearance that you're probably parents and grandparents. I am both. And I hope you feel as I would if I were in your position. that I would have a moral obligation to do the very best job as a council member because of the trust that the citizens of this fine city has placed in me. As a parent or a grandparent, we have a moral obligation to protect them against as much as we can. No one can force you to do anything immoral. You got that? No one can force you to do immoral things. Dr. James Dobson of the Family Research Council did a study a few years ago on prisoners in prisons and how they got there. They all, without exception, started their criminal life in their drug use life on marijuana. The majority of that, okay. I'm not a fortune teller or a prophet, but if you go ahead with authorizing the retail sales of marijuana in the city, you will be morally responsible for those that get hooked on it, and very possibly one of your children or grandchildren will be at one point on drugs, in jail, or dead. Then you'll have to explain to them, the parents, and the other siblings, why you passed this law, the use of marijuana. And I find this very interesting how the Democrats have put this label on smoking weed, recreational use of a drug. It's not recreational.
Thank you, Mr. Howie.
In my 80 years
Time is up.
of this God-given life, 53 years of this have been involved in political life and supporting people like you in your positions, campaigning for them.
Could you please
One-
wrap up, Mr. Howie?
1 minute.
No, not 1 minute. You have to just say thank you. You had your 2 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Howie. Moving on to Russell Staver.
You might recognize the last name Staver. I happen to be Randy's brother. My beef is there's a company called North Rock Real Estate. They tore down the entire block of houses where I live. So they could do something for Destination Medical Center. And I wound up homeless because of that. And what I'm trying to say is there's a lack of affordable housing in Rochester. And when I say that, I mean, for me, I get Social Security. I could afford maybe $600, $700, $800 a month, which you try to find that here, that's a no-go. And I guess I'd also like to say, Destination Medical Center got $5 billion from the state. Maybe they could spend 20 to 40 million of that on some affordable housing. I wouldn't have been homeless unless they tore the place where I live down. They tore down the entire block by Lord's High School, the old Lord's High School. So I guess that's my major beef. And no, I just don't understand it. And yes, I can go out and get a part-time job too and work. But I just wanted my voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Staver. Next up, Brad Tryon.
Go ahead.
Mr. Tryon.
President Schubring, members of the council, Brad Tran, Ward 5, Councilmember Palmer. I'm providing each of you guys packets that will be handed out. This past Saturday, the Mayo Civic Center hosted Section 1 Wrestling Rochester Area Home Builders Home Show, Civic Theater Play, plus auditions. On Friday, it snowed. On Saturday, I arrived at Mayo Civic at 10:45 to volunteer for the home show. And I was surprised to see the snow was not shoveled by the sidewalk from Center Street to Civic Center. I contacted Mayor Kim Norton, who told me that she contacted 3 people and then advised me to call 311 to file a complaint. I called that 311 number only to learn via voice recording it was closed. As of 9 p.m. Saturday night, over 10.5 hours later, we drove by and the sidewalks are still not cleared. I was concerned about our individuals with disabilities that need public access to that sidewalk. I've attached Rochester Code of Ordinances Section 962, which outlines responsibilities and penalties. The Mayo Civic Center was in complete violation. The city frequently finds homeowners and businesses under these snow and parking ordinances, often with no snow on the ground. Based on the ordinance and that I cleared the Mayo Civic Center sidewalk of snow, please accept my invoice to the city in the amount of $1,000. Please disperse $500 each to the Rochester Police Department and Rochester Fire Department wellness programs on my behalf. We expect homeowners and businesses to follow ordinances when the city itself does not. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Wes Lund.
Hello. I know you missed me a little bit. Nice to see you. Congratulations to
Waiting
you,
for you
sir.
to speak.
Yeah, I haven't been here since December 18th, perhaps, when I congratulated all of the Democrats, including yourself, Council President Schubring. All the Democrats are to be commended, along with Isaiah, Minnesota, and their sister or child organization, Faith in Minnesota, a quasi-religious organization, 501c4. And all of these groups, I'm excited to see the movement of House File 72 through the Minnesota State Legislature, which is going to apparently deal with some nonprofits and their influence on politics, of which I've spoken on this microphone many, many times. And I'm really excited to hear so many residents coming here tonight talking about similar issues. Please go back and see my speeches over the years. Everything I've said has been reasonable. The questions I've asked have been cogent and rational, sometimes funny, but congratulations are in order to everyone for realizing now that we do have partisanship in our local politics, and it is a real thing that the nonprofit organizations in Minnesota do influence our public policies. And so we're seeing, yes, 30 seconds are left, Council President Schubring, and almost time. I just did want to say thank you to everybody. Probably the last point is to say, please don't continue to do things that will bring more lawsuits against our city in terms of the DIE programs, diversity, inclusion, and equity, or critical race theory, or the blaming of Christians and white people for everything that's ever happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lund. Moving on to Linda Smith. Sorry, I messed your first name.
This isn't anything I normally would do. And I get worked up. I've owned a store downtown for 24 years. And I've never heard so many unhappy people that come to Rochester for treatments. I mean, they've ruined our downtown. I mean, I've fallen 3 times on them bricks. You know, and if they're gonna tell me what kind of shoes to wear, then that's not right. But I mean, and then I had a sales rep looking for my store, couldn't find it because those dang trees that you put in are so tall and so wide, you can't see the businesses. Now, why, I mean, you have to take all that parking, and I mean, if you could take that back, and you'd still have a big sidewalk for people to walk on, and you know, and I talk to people in wheelchairs and a cane, they are just livid, because try it once and go on there with the wheel. Even the UPS man says the same thing, it's just honky like this. I mean, do you think it's a good idea? I mean, it's awful. Like the Peace Plaza, it was beautiful before with the green grass and the blue paint and the lights that looked like water with a big fountain. Now what do you got? A big, ugly looking brown, nothing. You know, and then these bricks, I mean, you know, I don't know this positively, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, every mayor that we've had, like I said, I've been on it 24 years, every mayor that we've had has always come into the businesses and say, how are you doing? That mayor has never come in one time, done nothing. And another thing that I was told by one of my customers, that, you know, these bricks that you're putting in, they're not good for Minnesota. And you know what the mayor told him? So what? So, you know, I mean, it's It's not pretty down there anymore. It used to be very pretty. I mean, I just don't know what you're trying to get at. I mean, people, they don't like to come downtown at all. That's the biggest thing I hear. And then you try to watch those people trying to figure out how to use the parking meters. You know, when it was 30 minutes, that was awful, but now you got it for 3 hours. That's really bad because there's so many people that are working, they can feed the meter.
Thank
But
you,
30
Ms.
minutes.
Smith.
Sorry?
Thank you. Your time is up.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is, I believe, it's a kind of a scroll here, but I think it's Barry Skolnick. I will come to recognize your scroll.
Thank you very much. It's sloppy handwriting. I just want to get into a talk about Peace Plaza. There's two specific aspects of it, though. One of them is, who is it for? It should be for everyone.
Can you speak into the mic?
Did I turn it on? It basically it should.
Turn it back on.
Okay.
Speak.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay,
Yep.
it should be for everyone. It isn't just for people who are able-bodied. It should be for everyone. The second thing is, I'm concerned about that they are always saying that it's an inspirational poem. Most people can't even read the poem. And those that have, some people think it's a novelty. I don't remember anyone really, except some people on the DMC board, saying it was inspirational. Inspirational to whom? Is this the best that we can do for Rochester, a city that wants to be the first-class city? Please make it something for everyone that everyone likes, or 90% of the people like. I also want to mention that there should be errors and omissions insurance on all major capital projects. We don't have them on some. Why wasn't it filed? If they knew there were problems with the bricks, and why wasn't it filed to have insurance? Why aren't the builders paying for it instead of us having to pay for it? I don't understand that. And if they didn't do it this time, please do it in the future so that we have errors and omissions insurance on all major projects, so that if there's a problem, the contractor has to come in and fix it. Not us, them. And that's not been happening, so I would just appreciate it if you would put that in all contracts and look into if we can still use it in this case too, because we shouldn't be paying for that. It's been known for 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Skolnick. And finally, we have Nara Anderson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President Schubring, council members. Nora Anderson. I live here in Rochester. I'm here tonight to share my voice as an active and engaged business owner in downtown Rochester, as I know we'll be discussing the Peace Plaza probably at length this evening. But for the past 2.5 years, I have been charged with activating the Peace Plaza and the historic Chateau Theater by increasing programming activities in that space. I've had the privilege of seeing the community come together in a number of different ways in that space, from everyday lunchtime and happy hour, live music on the plaza where people can gather and enjoy the talent that we have in this community, sharing their music and their art with the community, hosting several community events. We launched a family event, Play on the Plaza, last summer that brought hundreds of families downtown every weekend to play and gather and connect with the community in that space. I'm also an artist. I have a deep appreciation for public art and its place in our community. And I do understand
Threshold Arts.
concerns
Threshold Arts.
the papers
Big
and what's
money,
happening with them.
Norton's
But I do want to reflect on the fact that we've had such increased activation in foot traffic and business in that space since the heart of the city remodel has been completed and the Chateau has reopened. I speak, there has been I believe, an increase in the reports of trips and falls, although I do know that the raised lettering on the papers does. I will not deny that it does create a hazard for some who have abilities different than myself. But I do urge you to speak with those who work and live in this space, who will be directly impacted by the work that is done to repair this. I believe that the work that's recommended by the city and the DMCC group to make these incremental repairs is a step in the right direction rather than considering a broad renovation of the plaza, which will have massive impacts on the business owners in the community who have gone to the space. And I just want to carry forward the momentum that we've gained in the past couple of years. So
Thank you,
hopefully
Ms.
you'll appreciate that. Thank you.
30 seconds free.
That's all I have on the sign.
30 seconds free for Mayor Norton's friend.
To be heard during public comment. Seeing no one, I will close public comment and ask Clerk Kiesler to call the roll.
Councilmember Keynes.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Here.
Councilmember Palmer.
Here.
Councilmember Doring.
Here.
Council President Schubring.
Here.
Mayor Norton.
Big money for Threshold Arts, Mayor Norton's friends. Your speech was excellent, sir. Would you care to make some more comments to the public? Okay, have a good night. Thank you for your speech. I really enjoyed it. So there you have it. That was the City Council meeting. Mayor Norton's facial expressions were nonstop during people's speeches. I tried to turn the camera over as quickly as possible to catch all of the rolling of the eyes, the flipping of the hair, and all of the grimaces, the movement of the eyebrows, and so forth. Her grimaces, talking to herself and sort of moving her mouth, muttering or mumbling, while people were speaking whom she disagreed with. At the end, of course, was Nora Anderson, big money partner in Rochester with the group that now has the contracts on the Chateau Theater, whatnot. Contract was broken with the vendor in the Twin Cities who was to do the work with Threshold Arts, the programming and the event planning and scheduling. Lots of great speeches tonight. Please come down to the next City Council meeting and say your piece. You sign up here at this table. They put the sign-in sheet on a table right in front of the room inside, and you can speak for 3 minutes, and I recommend filming it because very often there are issues with the technology. There's very often a problem, a technical glitch and whatnot. So film yourself and bring your friends. Big crowd tonight because later on they are going to be discussing in greater detail the Peace Plaza. People are really upset, up in arms about the Peace Plaza. That was the big news tonight. There is, of course, a feminist word salad, Earth Mother Gaia poem on the ground at Peace Plaza. These are pavers which have raised lettering which talk about animal sacrifices and whatnot. And it's just a word salad of feel-good nonsense. And that's what you have down in the Peace Plaza. And it leads to, nice to see you again. So it leads to accidents. People are falling down and hurting their faces and getting injured. I myself, hi, nice to see you again. Yeah, hi.
Do you mind if my tripod here? Could you watch that? I don't think there's going to be a lot of room in there.
There's a space that I just vacated that you'll find, okay, so in and turn to your left past Heidi Giesler, and then there's a camera right there by the walkway. One seat over, one person over, there's an open spot where it's just and there might still be a chair. Yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah, I think honestly I might just leave it out here because I'm talking to some people after the public hearing.
I'll be here for a couple minutes, so.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you might want to keep that with you, though. Just, I mean, I won't be here for another 5 minutes, but okay. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're
It's
probably right.
yeah, that's worth about maybe $100. That's a nice tripod. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Nice guy I talk to sometimes. So I have to say that a lot of people were here tonight, and the Peace Plaza is definitely everyone's focus. The issue of nonprofits was raised again, and I mentioned House File 7-2, which is making its way through the Minnesota State Legislature. That's going to be monitoring groups like Mayor Norton's friends at the, she talks that voice, right? It's just sort of witchy. Gets louder, echoes in here. We're just going to call it a night here. Look into Isaiah, Minnesota. Look into its funding. Look into the dark money that backs it. It is one of George Soros's Open Society programs, and they have a sister organization called Faith in Minnesota. The money that they take in each year is to the tune of about $8 million. That $8 million is spent on a lot of different activities in Minnesota, and a lot of that money goes to support the leftist organizations that support 501c3s, 501c4s, that then funnel money to people who are working in Democrat interests or leftist interests, even further to the left. So again, it's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is that Minnesota has a lot of dark money funding our politics, and we certainly do need Doge here in Rochester, Minnesota. We need a kind of Doge in Olmsted County. We're under an agenda which is coming from outside this area that has a plan for us. And even if some people are unaware of that plan that comes from some globalist masters like George Soros or billionaire Michael Bloomberg, there are enough of us now who know about these expenditures and these so-called nonprofit groups that we're starting to ask questions seriously of our elected public servants, and we're starting to try to find out where this money is coming from, where it's housed, and where it's going to work as non-governmental organizations, to work with NGOs that are rolling out government initiatives which are outside the government's purview, in a sense, right? So it's also something that you're funding, so you should take an interest in the refugee resettlement program, for example. You should take an interest in feeding our future. If you want to see your Medicaid and Medicare fully funded, you should take an interest in the work of Elon Musk and Doge and, of course, President Trump, to find out where this money's coming from and where it's going and who benefits from your tax dollars, because the amount of fraud, waste, and abuse is astonishing. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you, and by the way, I have not said an appropriate thank you to all the people who see me and say a kind word in public. I have to say this because I meant to do it a long time ago. Ever since about November, the day before Thanksgiving, for some reason, a lot of people have been just speaking to me and trying to shake my hand, and they recognize me and they talk to me and they say, "Thank you, Wes, for all you did." And that's always special to me because I do get a lot of hate. I get a lot of hate. So I appreciate the people who are reaching out and saying something positive. If you see me honking the horn and waving or thumbs up, or coming up to me in a store and saying a word. But look, thank you, and please do what you can, okay? Do what you can. You can do something to help. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Stay warm and dry.